The sun melted over the horizon, spilling fire across the Nile. Amelia stood barefoot on the temple terrace, the stones still warm beneath her soles, the air perfumed with lotus. Drifting from the water, she should have felt out of place, a stranger from another world. Standing among pillars carved with hieroglyphs older than memory. Yet every breath filled her with a sense of return, as if her soul had walked here before, many times, waiting for this night.
He was waiting for her.
Khepri leaned against a column, linen robes loose around his shoulders, the last light outlining him in gold. When his eyes found hers, the world seemed to hold still. Recognition flared between them like lightning. Her lips trembled. She whispered the name she had never been taught. Khepri. He straightened, stunned. Amelia, he breathed, as though he too had always known. Thought you were only a vision. They moved toward one another without thought, as if pulled by something stronger than gravity. When their hands touched, it was like time itself exhaled. The confession. I know you, Amelia whispered, her fingers trembling in his. But I don't know how. I dreamed about you, Khepri said, his eyes burning into hers. Since childhood, a woman, with eyes full of stars, standing by the river. And here you are, flesh and breath. Tears stung her eyes. So it isn't madness? No, he said. His thumb brushed her cheek. It is remembrance. Their lips met, urgent and reverent all at once. The kiss was not of strangers. It was of two souls remembering a vow. The chamber of torches. He led her through corridors lined with carvings of gods and kings, their shadows flickering in torchlight. At last they reached a quiet chamber, empty but for cushions and a low table. It was meant for offerings, but tonight it became theirs. The silence between them pulsed with longing. Amelia touched the scarab pendant at his chest. Why does this feel like forever? Because it is, Khepri whispered, tilting her chin. Because we have found each other. Before and we will again. He kissed her. Slow this time. Reverent. They sank together onto the cushions, hands exploring with awe, hearts racing. The air was thick with spice and resin, but sweeter still was the heat between them. The chamber of torches. He led her through corridors lined with carvings of gods and kings, their shadows flickering in torchlight. At last they reached a quiet chamber, empty, but for cushions and a low table. It was meant for offerings, but tonight it became theirs. The silence between them pulsed with longing. Amelia touched the scarab pendant at his chest. Why does this feel like forever? She said. Because it is, Khepri whispered, tilting her chin. Because we have found each other. Before and we will again. He kissed her. Slow this time. Reverent. They sank together onto the cushions, hands exploring with awe and hearts racing. The air was thick with spice and resin, but things were sweeter still with the intimate heat between them. A night that belonged to them. Time unraveled. They lay together for hours, speaking in fragments between kisses. I will not lose you again. Swear you'll find me. I swear, in any life. They laughed softly, discovered the shape of each other's smiles, learned the rhythm of each other's breaths. They whispered dreams, of sailing the Nile, of building a home, where the desert met the river, of a love that would outlast kings. When words were too small, they let touch speak. Fingers intertwined, lips finding new ways to promise, bodies pressed close as if to erase the memory of separation. For the first time in centuries, though neither could prove it, they were whole again. Before the dawn. In the fragile hours, Amelia lay with her head on his chest, listening to the steady drum of his heartbeat. His hand traced lazy circles along her back. The world will change around us, he murmured. But this, you and I, is the only truth worth carrying through time. She raised her eyes to his. Then promise me, if time scatters us, if fate plays cruel games, we will remember this night. He kissed her brow. In every life. Amelia. Always. As the first glow of dawn touched the walls, they held each other tighter, unwilling to surrender to the morning. The parting. By the riverbank, a barge waited. The vizier had summoned Khepri south to the quarries. Amelia stood on the sand, her scarab pendant clutched in her hand, fighting tears. I will return, he swore, his voice hoarse. And when I do, nothing will part us again. She whispered fiercely, come back to me. Promise. He nodded, eyes locked on hers as the barge drifted into the current. She watched until he was no more than a shadow against the blazing horizon. The waiting. Days stretched into months. Amelia lived in the temple city, painting scrolls, singing at festivals, walking to the river each dusk. She spoke his name into the reeds as though the Nile would carry it back to him. Sometimes she dreamed. Of gardens with lemons, of letters sealed with wax, of futures where his face was different but his eyes were always the same. She woke trembling, whispering, find me. But news came that many had perished at the quarries. Khepri's name was absent, but nor did he return. The silence grew heavy. Seasons passed. Pharaohs rose and fell. Amelia grew older, her beauty ripening into twilight flame. She never loved another. On her final night, scarab pendant in hand, she whispered, in any life, find me. And then she closed her eyes. The soul's journey. But vows like theirs do not end. They ripple across centuries. In Florence, a painter dreamed of a woman's laughter and painted her ribbon blue. In London, a barrister received a letter that smelled of orange blossoms and wept without knowing why. In each age, their souls brushed close, aching, reaching, trying. Until now. The modern reunion. Amelia adjusted her scarf in the library in Cairo, where she had come on a study abroad. Her laptop glowed faintly, but she was distracted by a man at the far table. Sketching in a notebook, dark hair falling into his eyes. Something inside her lurched. Her heart whispered his name before her mind caught up. He looked up and recognition struck them both like lightning. He smiled softly. Hello, Amelia. I've been looking for you. Her breath shook. Tears welled. Khepri. The name was out before she could stop it. He reached across the table and took her hand, the same gesture across thousands of years. His thumb brushed her knuckles just as it had by the Nile. In any life, she echoed. And in the hush of the library, as the world carried on outside, Amelia understood. That night by the Nile had never truly ended. It was still unfolding, lifetime after lifetime. A single love stretched across eternity. In any life, he whispered. The lemon tree. Months later, they stood together in a garden, planting a young lemon tree beneath the Cairo sun. A promise, Khepri said, patting the soil. A reminder, Amelia whispered, pressing her hand into his. The scarab pendant gleamed at her wrist. The tree trembled in the wind, already fragrant with the blossoms of lives past and future. And they knew. This time they would not waste their chance. This time they would love boldly, kindly, and without fear. A love both ancient and new, written into the stars and sealed with the vow of two souls who always found their way back. For some souls, love never ends. It only begins again, in every life. If you like this video, please share, like, and subscribe.